right, we'll do a little review of fallacies here. So I've had students post what their favorite ones are and which ones they need more help with. As everyone knows, ad populum is the best fallacy. Trust me, bro. Uh, the appeal to authority. Yeah, your professor says that appeal to authority is the best fallacy, so it is the best fallacy. If you need to study non sequitur more, just remember that an apple a day keeps a doctor away. So, yeah, in all seriousness, non sequitur is when the conclusion has nothing to do with the premises. And sometimes it can be kind of subtle because it might look like it does, but uh, the rule is in logic is that you establish premises and then you determine something that must always happen if those premises are true. So, for example, if every time you shoot a laser at a mirror, the light reflects off the mirror. That's premise one, and premise two, I shoot a laser at the mirror, then the conclusion should be the light will reflect off the mirror in a certain way. If the conclusion was instead, you're going to blind yourself with the laser, like, okay, you might be like, well, it has something to do with lasers and stuff like that. Yeah, but the conclusion you get from it isn't the conclusion that would follow necessarily from the premises. And so that would be a non sequitur. Premise one, if you shoot a laser at a mirror, it'll reflect. Premise two, I shoot a laser at a mirror. Conclusion, you'll blind yourself. It sounds plausible, but it's a non sequitur because the premises don't say anything about like a laser will blind you or you're shooting it at your eyes or any of that stuff. And so your own human common sense can get in the way sometimes when you're doing non sequitur because you're like, I don't know, it makes sense to me. But you have to look at the premises and see if the conclusion comes from the premises. That's non sequitur. If it doesn't, it's a non sequitur. Okay, my favorite fallacy is no true Scotsman. Well, only a true student would say that, Vince. So you're okay. Seth Tukwokwa. Tukwokwa is when somebody says, it's when somebody responds to somebody else with a counter argument, and they appeal to hypocrisy, basically. So like I hauled a student in front of the dean for cheating the other day, and he said, "Well, other students cheat too." That's like not a defense, buddy. It's like, well, other people do too. Why are you picking on me? It's like, well, because you got caught, because you cheated on everything. So, yeah, yeah, that's a two quote. Okay. So you need to study hasty generalization more. Hasty generalization is, I've seen 3 Fords, all of them were painted blue. Therefore, Ford makes only blue cars, right? It's when you jump to a conclusion too soon. Now, if you did a statistical analysis, if you did a sampling of Fords and you found out that like half of all Fords are blue and you sampled like 300 cars or something like that, then you could say like, hey, yeah, we think Ford is making a lot of blue cars. That's fine. That's not a hasty generalization. A hasty generalization is when you have a small sample set. Sometimes it's just a sample set of like one. Racism oftentimes comes from hasty generalizations. Well, I knew a person of this race and they were cheap, so all people of that race are cheap. You know, would be a hasty generalization. Ad hominem, yes, of course, you would say that. Is an ad hominem. Ad hominem is when you attack the person making an argument, not the argument. So if somebody says, if you shoot a laser at a mirror, it'll reflect, and I shoot a laser at the mirror and it'll reflect, therefore, perfectly fine, argument. Somebody might say, well, you should, you don't know anything about lasers, so I'm not going to believe you, right? That'd be an ad hominem. Like if you want to attack somebody's argument, you can't attack them using them usually, unless like they put themselves into the argument, like I'm 6'6" or something like that. Yeah, like if somebody says, if premise 1, if you shoot a laser at a mirror, it'll reflect. Premise 2, I shoot a laser at the mirror. Conclusion, it'll reflect. Like that's perfectly fine. But the person opposing them says, well, you don't know anything about lasers. That's ad hominem. That's not a good counter argument. Tu quoque is also not a good. It's tu quoque and ad hominem are used as counter arguments. Well, you didn't do your homework either. Well, you don't know anything about lasers. You're a poetry major, you know. Ha ha ha. Right? So those are both fallacious counter arguments. Strawman. Strawman is when you misrepresent somebody's argument. So, for example, if somebody says, I think the Mets are the best baseball team, and then somebody strawmans them into saying, well, why do you hate all other baseball teams? And they might not. They might not hate all other baseball teams. All they said was, I like the Mets. I think the Mets are the best. But it's so common for people to strawman an argument to become something twisted, something they didn't say. They typically take somebody's stance and just exaggerate it out to 1,000. Well, you must love, it's you must hate this. It's like, no, like I didn't say that, And so, just because you like the Mets doesn't mean you hate the Yankees, although it's maybe not that uncommon. I don't know. But if you like the Chargers, it doesn't mean you hate the Patriots necessarily. Appeal to ignorance. Appeal to ignorance is when you don't know something and you conclude something from it. So for example, I don't know when the finals is going to be, therefore it'll be on the Wednesday of finals week. It's like, well, if you don't know it, you can't conclude anything from it, right? I don't know who stole my chocolate bar, so I'm going to assume it was Derek that did that. It's like, you just said you don't know. You can't conclude anything from that. That's appeal to ignorance. A lot of students think appeal to ignorance is when somebody's just ignorant. But that's not it. Appeal to ignorance is very specifically the form of argument you make when you say, I don't know X, therefore Y. However, it is appeal to consequence. I need to study all of them. Don't know, straw man. Ad populum and tu quoque. So ad populum is when you say something is true because everybody agrees it's true. I am the greatest martial artist on the planet. I can dodge bullets. Everyone says so. That would be ad populum, right? Everybody agrees that I can dodge bullets. Therefore, I can dodge bullets. And then tu quoque, it'd be like, well, you couldn't do this either. So tu quoque and ad hominem come up in counter arguments. Okay. So that's a little fallacy review. We switch recordings to beautiful computer.